It's Time Warner Cable's local edition. I'm Brad Pomerance. Our guest, Mike Feuer, he recently left the California State Assembly, but we wanted to invite him on to speak about gun violence. It's an issue that you have been looking at for quite some time. I want to get a sense from you, what can be done locally, be it in Los Angeles, be it in the state of California? We know California has some very serious laws on the books, but what can be done locally?
Right. First, it's great to be back here.
Please.
In Los Angeles, we have a number of the toughest gun laws in the nation. I actually was privileged to write most of them here.
Oh, really? As a city council member?
Correct, as a city council member. And many of those laws are laws that are nationally at stake because, for example, I wrote the law to ban high-capacity magazines here in Los Angeles.
And that can be done. A jurisdiction that's a municipal jurisdiction can pass specific laws dealing with guns.
Yes. I mean, and for what it's worth, there are some limits. For example, a local jurisdiction couldn't pass a law that banned all guns right now. The Supreme Court recently said they couldn't do that.
I remember that, the D.C. case or Chicago case.
Exactly.
Right.
Exactly. But the legislation that I wrote here was, of course, challenged at the time by the National Rifle Association, and they lost. But that's an example of an important step that should be replicated as a nationwide matter. Here in Los Angeles, there are additional things we should do, though. We should be enforcing our gun laws more effectively. There should be much closer collaboration between the prosecutors, the city attorney, the district attorney, and the U.S. attorney. There should be, I think, in the city, there should be a unit, a gun violence prevention unit in the city attorney's office, for example.
But here's what's interesting, and I spoke with Jerome Horton recently, member of the State Board of Equalization. He's chair. And I think it's very easy for us in Los Angeles to kind of put our blinders on and only focus on, we've got to limit gun violence, we've got to focus on taking away the bullets and the guns. You know, we are Californians, and there are other views, you know, in our state. And I'm just wondering if we get caught in that kind of blindness of urban living in America.
Well, I think it's really important for us, though, here in Los Angeles and throughout the state, to recognize that there are certain weapons that belong nowhere. That there's certain ammunition that no one should have, you know, armor-piercing ammunition, for example. And for that matter, we ought to be doing everything we can to keep guns out of the hands of criminals and kids.
So along those lines, I think there's been a lot of discussion about the mental health component.
Yes.
And, but it's a lot of talk. And I'm really wondering what can be done, be it at a city level, a county level, a state level?
Well, at the state level, I actually have voted repeatedly for legislation that never got signed by a governor to provide mental health parity in health insurance, so that mental health is treated as, you know, physical health.
I remember Tipper Gore was involved in that nationally. But
and it's a really important goal for us to aspire to, not just locally, not just at the state level, but nationally. And you see in the wake of Newtown, there is renewed interest in that goal. We also need to be doing more to have counselors at our schools. Budget cuts have taken school counselors away from campuses. There are troubled kids who need intervention.
And if you think about the shooters recently, the gentleman in Newtown recently graduated from high school. The gentleman in Colorado was still at a university. I mean, these are young men that are clearly struggling. We hate what they did, but in the final analysis, we wish they could have gotten help.
Right, and so I think there's a spectrum of responses. I think we need to be, as I said, more effective at enforcing our gun laws. There are additional laws that we should pass. For example, here in Los Angeles, we could learn from Sacramento's experience and pass a law that requires gun sellers to electronically transmit to LAPD records of ammunition sales, so we know who's buying ammunition.
What about background checks for ammunition sales?
Well, for what it's worth, I have been a supporter historically of the idea that people who are called prohibited purchasers who can't buy weapons should not be allowed to buy ammunition either. It doesn't make sense to allow a gun not to be purchased, but ammunition to be bought. There's a lot more we can do, and I'm confident we will soon.
Come back. His name is Mike Feuer. My name is Brad Pomerance. Thank you so much for watching Time Warner Cable's Local Edition.